If I had a son, he would look like you. Ah! Hey, welcome back. We're back here at the Crimson Ghost Mask Room. Yes. Did you catch that last video on Kevin's crazy basement? Isn't that amazing? Boy. Yeah, hanging out with Kevin gets you wanting to buy an abundance of vintage pinball machines. And it's funny because I wanted machines for a long time and just kept blowing it off until my basement was going to be ready. Then you just start going to his house and it's like this sickness sets into your mind. You're like, yeah, I need to start buying machines. No matter what the state of my basement was at the time, I started buying them. And the next thing you know, they're all over the house. All over the living room, the bedroom, the dining room, pinball machines. So anyway, what are we going to talk about? This is going to be an Artifacts of the Frankenshrine episode. Yes, there's been a lot of those. God damn it. There's been a lot of those lately, which is great for you guys. You get to see some killer stuff. I've got killer stuff, but Frank really had a lot of killer stuff. And we're going to keep showing you that stuff until there's no more to show, you know. So tonight's episode is going to be on some cool pieces by Mr. David Lady. So usually I'll show you David Lady pieces, at least pieces that were offered by David Lady on the little cards like this. I've showed you some of the flyers, like the 8x10. They're like a colored paper with, you know, a printed image of a mask on it. It's like a little advertisement, basically. So the two masks I have here right now that I'm going to show you that were offered by David Lady back, I believe they were both offered by David sometime in the 90s. I do not have the papers on right now. I don't know. First of all, the second one, I don't think there was a paper at the time. The first one, I just can't find it. So we're going to start off with a wonderful... No, we can't. Shit. Alright, scratch that. We'll start off with this other guy first. Have you guys seen the movie Mr. Sardonicus? It is a wild flick. It is really neat. And if you love old, just horror movies, you should watch this film. We have a great Mr. Sardonicus mask here. Look at this. This was offered by David Lady, I believe around the year 1999. Sculpted by the great Carol Hicks. Yes, Carol Hicks sculpted it. David Lady, I believe David painted this copy. His eyes, sure looks like it. His eyes were never that yellow. His eyes yellowed over time. I'm guessing this hair was probably put on by Laura Lady back in the day. It's it should be like slicked down a little more. If you watch the movie, his hair's not super puffy. It's more like that. He's a good looking dude. Sometimes he has a fake face on in the film. I don't want to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it. It's a really wild flick. Watch Mr. Sardonicus. You won't be disappointed. Mr. Sardonicus. This is like a German DVD cover. Okay. Ha 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 ha. He looks yellow there, right? He's yellow here. Der unheimlich Mr. Sardonicus. So the film's black and white, but on some artwork out there, he does look yellow, and that's why I'm assuming that's why this one is yellow and painted yellow like he is. But this is a neat piece. When you'd walk into the Frankenshrine main collection room, it was a really long room, you know, in this cellar or basement, and there was a little shelf that went along the whole perimeter of the room, you know, probably 6 feet off the ground. And the entire room had this little shelf. And Sardonicus was on that main long wall. Boom, it's all masks across the whole damn thing. It's crazy. And I would see him there all the time, chilling with some familiar faces that I've shown you already. But look at this. Awesome sculpture work on this, of course. Carol is one of my favorite sculptors in this hobby. She's done a lot of characters out there that a lot of people just have not produced. You know, that's what I really love about her. And the likenesses are incredible. The likenesses Carol achieved were incredible. So this was just a really great piece. I wish I could find, I thought there would be a flyer for him, but I was talking with David last night and he said he didn't think he put out a flyer on him at the time. Could have been a, you know, some little ad somewhere along the way, and that's how people found out about it, but cool piece. I kind of wanted to show you another David Lady piece. I want to show you another David Lady piece first before I get into this other stuff, but when I do show that other one, I got to show other items with it. So I may skip to another mask maker first and show you this awesome piece. Okay, we're going to skip this other David piece for now for a very good reason. And we're going to go show you a mask by a Mr. Tony Gardner. Tony Gardner, Alterian Studios. Have you heard of that? Have you heard of this mask maker, Alterian Studios? Those of you that know who Tony Gardner is know he has had an amazing career as a special effects makeup artist, puppeteer. Worked on several films over the years, like Seed of Chucky, Shallow Hal, Something About Mary. I love Something About Mary. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Zombieland, Smoking Aces, Jackass films. Like, he's been around. And Tony produced some awesome masks back in the day. And I've got one of them sitting right down below the desk here, yes. So, Tony would make masks under the name Alterian Studios. Tony made some limited edition masks where he produced 100 of them, you know. Not as limited as a lot of independent mask makers out there where they're making like 10 or 12 pieces, but his masks were very nice quality. What do you want? I'm filming! I know. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Let's tell your little story about what happened to you. You want to tell everybody? So I go to bed last night. I was down here. I was going to film last night. I was so tired. I sat here. I'm like, no way. I'm going to bed. I go to sleep. I wake up this morning. I hear like this little whimpering. Like, eh. I'm like, what? Did I hear a cat outside? Because sometimes cats wander up out of the woods and we'll feed them. And I hear this little cat cry off in the distance. And now midnight, the crazy black cat that's in the videos opening doors and stuff, the chubby one, he comes to my bedroom crying, like Lassie, like, help, Timmy fell in the well. And I'm like, what? I get up, he's crying, I go, meow. I'm like, you got food? I go, you got food? Get out of here. I know usually I think he's begging for food and water. He's going, meow, meow. I'm like, what? What is your problem? And I'm like thinking, where's Mustache? I don't see Mustache anywhere at this point. Usually she runs out of somewhere in the morning. She was locked here in the mask room all night. The door closed and must have been whimpering, trying to get out. So I felt so bad for her. Opened the door. She came out and I picked her up. But she's been really loving all day like this. Like, oh, pet me. Yeah, so she was, and it's funny, I'm like, did she be in here? Did she crap on the floor? Nothing. She knows how to respect the mask room. So, get your butt out of Mr. Sardonicus' face. Back to Tony Gardner's masks. So, let's get our fancy mask stand out. And I'm going to show you this amazing, I would call it a zombie by Tony Gardner. Look at this thing. This mask is titled Hemlock, okay? Sardonicus, you gotta stand aside. This is Hemlock. This was in Frank's main collection room with his mask collection, and he had a few masks by Tony, and this is by far one of my favorites. And when you look at this compared to other zombie masks by, you know, independent mask makers, this one's pretty badass. He doesn't have your average corpse eyeball. It's got like a sinister eyeball, like he's squinting, like he's gonna, you know, eat you. But the details on this thing are so great. Look at, you can see like the skull in areas, like the bone from underneath the flesh. This thing is so cool, and of course Frank always had to have the best copies or custom versions of copies or catalog copies. This happens to be number one. It's the first copy produced of Tony's Hemlock mask. So it's number one out of the 100 run, the original run. And, you know, the first pull is always the best. The most detail it's going to be. It's, you know, as you pull more and more and more, the molds will deteriorate. I guarantee you, they didn't pull 100 pulls out of one mold. There was probably several molds, you know, but this is the number one pull from the first mold. And just a great mask. Tony's masks have great size to them. It's awesome. This is really big. If you noticed on that Jordu video, a lot of the old masks Jordu was making were kind of small, you know. They're just, you know, he was just starting out, like I said, and I guess he was just kind of used to sculpting small and making smaller pieces, and it was just the way it all ended up, you know. But here, Tony's is massive. This would be a cool thing for me to wear on Halloween one year, you know. The size is perfect. On the back, he's got these masks signed, the engraved signature into the sculpt. It says 1990 Alterian Studios. So that sucker's from 1990. Just badass piece, you know. I walked by this thing so many times in this collection. I kept looking at it like, man, I gotta bring that back and clean it up. It was real dusty, and just a killer sculpture, you know. So there are others by Alterian that I'll be showing you in time, but tonight I'm just showing you the one, you know. It'll be the first Alterian Studios masks I've ever even shown on my channel. I've never had any of his other masks in this room, so really, really cool to own a piece of Tony's work here, because he's definitely a seasoned special effects artist in Hollywood and very well known. So cool stuff. I got another one to show you before we go to the last David Lady piece. That's going to be like the grand finale, I'll say, because there's cool stuff we're going to show you with this last piece that go with it. However, before we show you that, I got another thing to show you. Yes, another thing. Another thing from another world! Oh, look at that! How cool is that? This is the Thing from Another World, aka The Thing. You know, not John Carpenter's Thing, but The Thing. Weren't they watching The Thing in Halloween when she's babysitting them, and she's like, Laser Man, Neutron Man, Tarantula Man.
Laser Man, Neutron Man, Tarantula Man.
What about the Boogeyman? Some people always questioned the actual color of the creature in the film, of the alien, I should say, in the film, because some of these are flesh toned, you'll see, and others are green, okay? Now this, I got a little paragraph I'm going to read to you. My buddy Evil Wilhelm was there when Kathy was sculpting this thing on the table. And here's what William had to say. And I'm going to show you a picture of Williams because Williams is flesh colored, okay? Here's Williams. Okay, Williams says, I had helped Kathy with the sculpt as a second set of eyes, and it was before we knew what color he should be. I had seen the original movie prop hand over at Forey's place, and it was a flesh color. So we made mine flesh colored. Afterward, though, Cortland Hall from the Witch's Dungeon, asked a friend who was actually in the film, and that friend remembered it being green. He said, no, the creature was definitely green when we were filming. So then after that, all of these were made in green. There wasn't a ton of them. You know, the handful that were produced back then were made in green. I don't remember. One thing I don't remember right now is if this was late 80s. I thought it could have been early 90s when she did this. A lot of great pictures in my post of people talking about this thing from another world and Kathy Tharp's version. It's so great. I think it could be the only one ever attempted was Kathy's. I don't remember anyone else sculpting one of these. Maybe, you know, in model kit form, of course. But, I mean, look at this. And this was in the Frankenshrine in a glass case. Unfortunately, he was the victim of the mold. And so I had to really clean him very well. It took a long time. And he came out good. But he certainly looks aged. He's a very aged looking piece, which I love even more than having a brand new version that looks like he was done last week. I'd rather have a piece that looks like it was done, you know, 30 years ago. I just love that when they have that little patina to them, you know, where the paint just ages. And most of the time it's something you cannot fake, you know. So isn't that great? Look at that guy. So, so cool. And I have been on a serious 50s sci-fi and horror kick lately. That's all I've been watching. Just loads of it. You know, I've loved it all these years, but man, it's so great revisiting so many old films and watching them now, you know. Like that's most of the stuff you guys know and love, you know, your Michael Myers, your Jason, your Freddy, you know, all this stuff would not be here if it wasn't for that stuff. So find it in your heart to have an appreciation for that stuff, you know. If you're not familiar with those old films, the B films and whatnot, they're very hokey. A lot of them are very just so bad, but that's what makes them so good, you know. Giant tarantula on the screen, all that stuff it's just, it takes me back to being a teenager in this hobby, you know, going to shows and finding these, you know, videotapes I'd buy for $5 and they'd have old movies like that on them. Because there was no streaming. You couldn't sit there and stream old movies day and night for a year straight if you wanted to. No, you had to physically go out and buy movies on a physical format, like a VHS tape. And there would be like these guys set up with tables full of weird, obscure Japanese, like Godzilla stuff. Or they had all these weird old horror flicks, you know, that they dubbed on VHS tapes. They copied them. And that's how you got a lot of your movies back then. Now, we're going to go back to a David Lady piece that is so cool. Another Carol Hicks sculpt, which is, it's beautiful. It was moldy, and my buddy Dino goes, oh my God, don't clean off the mold. I love it better with the mold. It looks so much better. And I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, he's right. But I explained to him, I said, man, as much as I would love to, I do not want to bring anything down to this room caked in mold and introduce this mold to my room down here. You know, you never know what could happen. So be careful with stuff like that. Make sure you clean it really good before you put something in your collection room from some other house, you know, that had some mold spores on it. If that mold likes your atmosphere down here and the darkness and whatever, it's going to go, I think we should multiply everywhere. All right. So, one thing I was telling my friend through text, and I said, you know what I want to start doing? If I have a mask, and I have the movie poster for the film, and the lobby cards, and blah, 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 I think it'd be cool to show all of those things on an episode where you see all of it together, not just the mask. Okay, you see what I'm getting at? So what I'm going to do is first show you the mask, and then I'm going to get some other artifacts out that are just amazing that have to do with this film, okay? And this film I'm going to talk about is called The Mummy, yes, but it is not the classic Boris Karloff version. It is the 1959 Hammer version, where the mummy was played by Sir Christopher Lee. Yes, this thing is so cool. And his eyes have yellowed a little bit, and it kind of adds to the character of him. So, are you ready for the Carol Hicks sculpted mummy, the Hammer film version? Here he is. Good old Christopher Lee. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Oh, it's so cool. I've been on a kick lately to acquire all the old David Lady pieces, out there that he was offering. All the things in the old flyers. I've been doing a good job at it. With the help of Frank and the Frankenshrine and the pieces I've been bringing back, I've had a great jump start on collecting those old pieces that were offered by David Lady, through the mailing, through mailing out flyers and whatnot, and through the ads in the old Halloween Gazettes and the Halloween Society publications. So, take a good look at this guy, because I've got other artifacts from the Frankenshrine that have to go with this film. I said, what more perfect of a time to show those off than when I'm showing you the mask? Okay, so I'm going to go grab those items and we're going to look at them together. And hopefully it will urge those of you that have never seen this film to go watch it. It's a great movie. Hammer films, like I said in the past, I would watch them sometimes in my when I was a teenager, but man, Frank really, really helped me gain a much better love for the Hammer movies, more than ever in the past 8 or 9 years. He's really gotten me to appreciate them more and more, and I'm so glad he did. So glad. If I could take one great thing from all the conversations I've ever had with him, it was him getting me to watch more Hammer films that I did not see back then, and just something I'll never forget. All right, let me go get the rest. Here we go. I realized so I figured it would be much better to show you these two items upstairs here where they're at, rather than taking them down to the mask room and risk damaging them. One of these is from the Frankenshrine. It's an artifact of the Frankenshrine, and it is absolutely incredible. I just showed you the mask of the mummy, played by Christopher Lee. Here is the original one sheet. Look at that. The colors on this are so vibrant, it's crazy. I mean, this thing looks brand new, this poster. I had this one linen backed myself in Chicago. Man, this poster is so clean and gorgeous. You can hardly tell it was a folded one sheet back in the day. It's so perfect. I want to add, I did not have any restoration work done to this poster. Just the linen backing. It's going to be framed in time, most likely for the living room downstairs after it's repainted. But look at that. Isn't that incredible? I know that the camera I'm shooting with probably isn't showing true actual color, but it's close. Which brings us to the second piece. I recently acquired a stack of Belgian posters, which are much smaller. But look at this. I've got the Belgian poster for the Hammer film, The Mummy, the 1959 version. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And they show you things you will not see on the one sheet. You do see this little image here on both posters. And of course, there are similarities to both posters, but they had a little Egyptian scene there. You don't see that on the original one sheet, so it's pretty neat. This is a really nice poster. These are so nice because the size are wonderful. You could frame a bunch of these you know, it's not the size of big old one sheets. Those are laying on a one sheet. You can see the size difference. But we'll show more of these in time. I just had to show you guys that I had these two posters here for that film. So cool. The artwork for this poster is, I think, is amazing. You know, it's such a like powerful image of that mummy just walking, basically like walking right off of the poster. You know, and you got the title right there. It's just amazing to me. Definitely one of my favorite vintage horror film posters of all time. What I forgot to mention is I believe David Lady did all the paint work here on the Christopher Lee mummy. No hair work on this guy, of course. Sardonicus definitely had the hair work, which I'm guessing Laura Lady definitely did the hair. But I guarantee you David's probably the one that painted this one, and it's very cool. It looked great moldy, like Dino was saying, but I had to clean it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing these artifacts of the Frankenshrine here in full color, because they are great pieces. This one, like I said, is one of 100 produced. I don't remember ever seeing one in someone's collection. I really have to think about that, but still a great piece. These were all very limited in their time. I'm guessing, you know, there could have been 10 or 15 of these guys made at the time. Same here with the Thing. I don't know how many Kathy produced. I've been trying to get a hold of her lately. It's very tough these days. Same with Sardonicus. I don't think a whole lot were put out of the original runs. I'm sure years later people got their hands on a new casting or two out of those molds, but these are all the originals. So again, thank you. There's more coming. Definitely more mask videos, more Frankenshrine videos, and we may dig into more movie poster videos, and especially lobby cards. All right, so all right, guys. This was just a quick episode tonight. I scored some amazing pieces last night. I scored a creep show piece that I do not have. Ho 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 ho! So we're going to dig up some images from the last creep show video when I unveil what's coming in the mail. Oh yes, and it's rare. Cannot believe it. I just happened to stumble upon it. And a rare skull is on its way. So we got those to look forward to. Not from the Frankenshrine, but just out in the wild, you know. Amazing what you can score over a simple phone call with a friend. All right, guys, good night, and we will see you next time. Who's your boo-boo?